Hi, I'm Paul Bailey, and this is part of the introduction to analyzing PIAAC data using EdSurvey, and now we're going to talk about Introduction EdSurvey. So, the first question I might have is why would I want to use R? And the reasons that I like to use R is that it's free, so you can legally use and edit R package code available from CRAN, or the Comprehensive R Archive Network. It's extensible. There's a large variety of contributed packages on CRAN. And it's transparent. I can look at the R code that I'm using and get a sense of what's going on. It's reproducible, so I can uh, share my code with somebody else and they can get the same results. And it was designed by and for researchers, so it's really targeted towards the group of people who are doing research with data. So why would I use EdSurvey? Well, it's a one-stop shop for processing, manipulation, and analysis of survey data. It takes care of the weights and the complex sampling design that we've talked about in other videos in this series. And it follows the OECD methodology when it does so. It's relatively simple, so I can run a regression and use the 80 replicate weights and 10 plausible values in just a few lines of code. And it's flexible. So um, I can continue to use EdSurvey with other packages. And uh, finally, I'm going to say it minimizes the memory footprint. So it only reads in the data that's required, freeing up memory on my computer so that I don't end up getting bogged down with too much read in if I read in all the data sets. So this is an outline of how you might use EdSurvey, and we'll be going into this more further on. The first thing I'm going to do is initialize my machine, get it ready for using EdSurvey. Then I'm going to try and understand my data. I've just read in a data set with thousands of columns, and it takes a while to understand a data set that has that much going on in it. Then I'm going to manipulate my data, which I can do using EdSurvey itself, or I can just make a data frame of the data I want and do so in R. And then I'm going to run analyses using EdSurvey. To initialize my machine, I'm going to want to install the EdSurvey package itself. I can do that with install packages EdSurvey. Um, that will install all the associated packages. When I want to use EdSurvey, I should um, use library EdSurvey to get it loaded into memory. If you use the tidyverse software, you can use library tidy EdSurvey for tidyverse integration. And then I'm ready to go. I can read in my data. I can use read PIAAC to read in PIAAC data. When I do that, I will I will find that it takes a few minutes the first time I read it in, and then after that, it's pretty quick. Um, when I'm trying to understand the data, and this is dealing with the issue that there are so many columns and I'm just looking for a few of them, I might want to use show codebook to look through the entire codebook of data available, and then I can use in um, the search function, for example, in RStudio to look through just for particular levels or variable names. I can get the plausible value variables if I want to write my own software to do analysis of plausible values, and I can do show weights for the similar reason. In addition to doing show codebook, I could also do search SDF to get me the information about variables, and I can also do levels SDF, which will give me information about the levels of a particular covariate. If I'm interested in looking at what a variable looks like, I can do summary 2 to get a sense of any particular variable, or use the EdSurvey table to get to table up a variable. Next, I'm going to want to manipulate my data. I might want to do subset. If I can use get data to get data. I can also use if I have tidy EdSurvey loaded, I can use the select verb to breed in the data. And then after that, after I've done a bunch of manipulation, I might, using other software, I might need to put the attributes that EdSurvey puts onto data frames back. So I might do rebind attributes, and then I can run my analyses. The types of analyses I can do could be achievement levels or percentiles to look at the distribution of scores. I can correlate continuous or discrete variables with core SDF that has polyserial and polychoric correlations, which means it also has biserial and bichoric correlations. I could calculate a gap analysis. So I might want to compare two different groups across time, countries, or both, um, and even within a country. And then I might want to run a linear model or a generalized linear model using my data. And then um, finally, I might want to do a multivariate regression or a hierarchical linear model, which I'd use mixed SDF for. So that is the four steps in a nutshell. There's a user's guide, which is available online. Uh, that is a book we wrote about using EdSurvey. Just some notes about terminology. When you read in a data set, it won't be a data frame, it'll be an EdSurvey data frame. That's how we take advantage of not reading in all the data. And for several of these functions will have the SDF in them. And what does that mean? SDF is used to indicate survey data frame. So it's just a shorthand that we use to indicate that this is an EdSurvey function. Sometimes we'll read in several countries or several years, and when we do that, we'll end up with an EdSurvey data frame list, which is a list of the different surveys. And those could have uh, Cove argument that'll show us how things differ, and we'll see when we run analyses that way they'll end up labeled with labels that we apply, or it'll automatically guess. For example, if we give it a couple countries, it'll guess that the label we want is the name of the country. Um, if you're interested in how to construct these yourself, you can use the question mark function on EdSurvey data frame list and see the documentation. To get the PIAAC data, you need to go to the OECD website and download the data. And when you're given the option, you're going to want the CSV files. Um, in order to read in the data, we're going to use the read PIAAC function. Again, it's going to take a few minutes the first time you do it. That's going to be the only time it takes a few minutes for that particular country and cycle. So whenever you read in that data again, it'll be relatively quick. Here's an example of an EdSurvey call to read in. I set data path to where I saved the PIAAC 2023 data here, and wherever that is on my computer, and then I can read in the US data with this first line. I can read in the German data with the second line, or the French data with the third line. That is it.